Okay, hello and welcome to Inspired in Hull from Astrophysics to Antarctica with Dr. Nina Purvis. We are delighted that so many of you are joining us at 12 o'clock on a Wednesday afternoon. And we're very, very excited about the session that we've got for you today. The Inspired in Hull series is one in which we celebrate the amazing things that our alumni go on to do after they've studied at the University of Hull. And I think Nina's journey has been one that's incredibly exciting, going from being an astrophysics student here at Hull to being currently, or not quite currently, in Antarctica. We had hoped to broadcast this session live from Antarctica. Nina, at the very last minute, though, has been taken out of Antarctica and sent to New Zealand because of a melting runway. So late drama has changed plans, but not too significantly. We will still be giving you a tour of the research station. Nina's kindly recorded a tour, which she's going to show for us today. So that's going to happen after I finish talking. But today the session is with Nina, who studied an integrated master's and bachelor's in astrophysics at Hull, and later did a PhD in medical physics at HIMSS. And she's currently the Concordia Research MD, working with the European Space Agency. Interviewing her for today's session will be her former lecturer, Howard Snelling, who is also a graduate of the University of Hull. He graduated in applied physics and then was a lecturer in the Department of Physics for 25 years. Today, Howard is an advanced development manager with Luxinar, a company that builds lasers, which is also the area. Sorry, I've been muted there. So Howard, is currently advanced development manager at Luxinar, and they work with lasers, and that was Howard's area of research here at Hull. So today we're gonna play the video and give you the tour of the research station, courtesy of Nina, and then Howard and Nina are going to have a conversation where Nina will share her story with us, and then after that we're going to open that up to questions from you, the audience. We'd ask you to put the questions in the chat, and then we'll select the questions as we go through. But hopefully everybody will have the chance to put the questions to us, to put the questions to Nina. So with that, I'll ask. One of the things so I've been asked to note is at the beginning of the video there is a little bit of wind. As you can imagine, weather conditions in Antarctica are not perfect.
Hello, my name's Nina and I'm the European Space Agency's research medical doctor at Concordia Station in Antarctica, and I'm going to give you a station tour. So this is Concordia Station in Antarctica. It's one of the 3 permanent research bases on the Antarctic Plateau. So we are at an altitude of 3,200 meters. Today's minus 4 degrees Celsius. It's actually quite warm for us. The sun is out, but in winter, the polar night when it's dark for months on end, it's about minus 80 degrees Celsius. It's also very dry here. It's actually classed as an ice desert, and it's a very extreme environment. And for 13 months, we are stationed here, a crew of 13 people. And during this mission, for 9 months, we are completely isolated. So we can't get any help, medical, we can't get any food, and we can't get any transport. So it's really like being on white Mars. So let's take a look inside. So this is the front door. So this is the front entrance, and we have the times of the different stations and countries back home, and also the temperature. And then it also tells us some information about wind, aurora, things like that. And we can tell if it's safe to go outside. So we're going into the quiet tower now. So here we have our rescue equipment. And the hospital. I won't go in, of course, in case anybody's in there. and just some bedrooms, offices, a Skype room. People are packing because it's the end of the mission now. This is where everybody gets changed. And in here we have, it's very warm in here. People use it to warm up after they've been outside, but there are a lot of pipes for the grey water recycling unit and for the hot water tanks of the station. And then we take the stairs. So that was the ground floor, and now we're coming up to the first floor, which is the bedrooms. We do have to be quiet because people do work in shifts, but I can show you. So it's a circular floor. I have some AED, rubbish bins, and this is my old room. I've just cleared it out. So in the summer we share, and in the winter we have a room to ourselves, which is nice. And then I can show you outside. So we have some containers, scientific shelters and instruments over here. And then a nice view of the station to the other side. So again, some more scientific shelters like astrophysics, glaciology. And then we shut the window. Okay. There's emergency exits on all floors. And now we're going up to the laboratories. So we have a range of scientists here from Italy and France, and then of course me from Britain. And this is the ESA lab. So this is where I carry out all of my experiments for the whole year, looking at how the body and the mind adapt to extreme environments. It's nice and tidy now because I've been packing, but it's lovely to have my own space, and the views are pretty cool. White Mars. Alright, and now we'll go back to the ground floor and I'll take you to the noisy tower. Okay, so we're back on the ground floor and I'll take you through the noisy tower. So this is where we do all of the noisy work and live and eat and work out. So we have laundry room, and this is the technical room, so our team can fix and make anything. I spent a lot of time in here learning new skills. Our fire team base, and then if we go upstairs, we have a gym, which is pretty well kitted out, I think. Weightlifting equipment, treadmill, rowing machine, bikes, everything you might need to keep the body moving when you're confined during the polar night. And in here we have the video room, so we have movie nights in here. People play instruments, play video games, and we have some keen climbers on the crew and on past crews, so they've built a climbing wall as well. And around here we have some storage for food, so we have dry warehouse, freezer, which is cooled from outside, and a fridge room. And this is what's left, not much after the winter. So the shelves are kind of empty and we're going to restock those soon. The first plane should be coming any day now. And then you can hear some music in the background. Our chef is cooking Um, so we might see some crew members on this one. Okay, so we have where we wash all of our dishes and pots, and this is the living room. Lots of books. This is where we mainly chill out in an evening. Of course, the Thing poster and games, a bar, and our coffee machine, which is amazing. We make Italian coffee every day. More games, and this is the restaurant room. What I find really interesting about this is every crew makes a kind of plaque with all of the crew member names, and this is ours for DC21. And the chef is busy making lunch, so I won't go in the kitchen. But we do have a greenhouse, which is pretty cool to have fresh salad all year. And we can help ourselves to drink cereal, make toast, things like that. There's a glance at the kitchen. And we won the Antarctica Film Festival this year, so we're very proud of that. And that is Concordia Station in 5 minutes or less. I hope you enjoyed.
Hello, it's Nina. Hi there, Nina.
Hi, Howard.
So,
that was so emotional to watch because I've left. I left yesterday.
yeah, no,
It's really sad.
Well, when it's been your home for such a long time, it must be difficult, and also leaving those people as well. You said to me earlier that some are still there, so they've not all come away with you.
Yes, yeah, it's like I've left my family. It's yeah, emotional.
I was going to start by sort of taking you all the way back to sort of, well, when we first met, when you came to Hull to study, and you were put in my tutorial group, and as part of that, we started to have a bit of a chat about what you might use your degree for. And you mentioned NASA at the time, which I thought was quite bold, but you have actually managed this amazing career path, and I thought, perhaps you could just talk us through, what happened from those sort of early days of a vague idea of I'd like to work in space to where you are now.
Yeah, you're right. Back then, I was maybe a little naive as an 18-year-old to say I wanted to work for NASA because I don't have American citizenship. So that's a big barrier. But now I know European Space Agency is the place to be. So as a British person, for sure. But yeah, I went through phases. When I started astrophysics at Hull, I was obviously very excited, but it was very humbling because a lot of smart people on my course, and I struggled at first. I mean, I know that I always had meetings with you about essays that I maybe didn't do the best on, or exam grades that I wasn't happy with, and I used to kind of beat myself up a lot. But then as I went through the course and learned how to study better, like my own study skills and what suited me, I started to perform better and I got a bit more confidence. I made friends on the course and we'd study together. And then obviously I love space, but in my final year, I took an elective in medical physics. And I really found a passion for applying that physics to a patient population, that I can make a difference in, for example, cancer imaging. And I went on to do my PhD in that with the lecturer who provided that elective.
Yeah, I
So
think
it kind
that
of went.
was Peter Gibbs. I've seen him on the attendance list. So
Is he? Oh,
yes.
hi, Pete. Thank you. Thank you for attending, Pete. Please don't bully me, both of you, and ask me physics questions. The physics has been pushed to the side of my mind. But yeah, and so during that PhD, I was using physics and not clinical medicine, but medical physics. And I spent this 1 week shadowing a surgeon to understand more how surgeons take out tumours, because one of my projects was designing some imaging to help guide surgeons to do that better. And I decided, yeah, I think I want to go to medical school. I want to be a surgeon. So I kind of went from the space to the medical physics to the medicine. And then when I was at medical school, I was just watching TV and there was this TV program called Have You Got What It Takes to Be an Astronaut? And one of the hosts was a space medicine doctor. And I was like, wow, okay, you can do space medicine. So Googled it. Yes, it's a thing. Yes, there are courses you can do. And it all kind of came together, this pathway to allow me to essentially work for a space agency in a medical capacity and a research capacity. So it didn't work out with the astrophysics, but yeah, I got this job eventually.
But I think obviously taking that path has given you like a unique set of skills, adding to them to your goal. But I mean, looking back and sort of tracing your way through, would there be any shortcuts, or do you think that's a necessary path that you needed to do all those stages?
I mean, on paper, yes, you definitely could have gotten here quicker, but I think from like a personal journey, there were times, so I took time out of education. I went to work abroad in America, and yeah, those things made me a person who was more confident and capable of doing this job. I don't think I would have had the confidence to even apply for it, never mind complete the mission, if I hadn't taken the path that I'd taken. So I don't regret the long journey, but yeah, it was quite long.
Well, I think, I mean, you said sort of to some extent physics is sort of in your past, but I think, from my side, part of studying a physics degree is, yeah, obviously the knowledge, but there's creative thinking, problem solving, the way you analyze tasks and data and apply yourself. So do you still feel that you use your physics degree in that way, or some of the specific knowledge perhaps?
Yeah, for sure. But both things. So I'm a general surgery track resident, and in my particular job, we do a lot of imaging. So I feel like I have a better understanding of, say, the risks of radiation exposure for patients that I send to get X-rays or CTs, and maybe when they're having cancer treatments. So colon cancer is a big patient population for me. If they're having radiation-based treatments, again, I understand more like from a physiological standpoint what we're putting them through. Whereas maybe they don't teach physics as much as they should in medical school because
Yeah.
it is a big part of medicine and surgery. And then for space medicine, of course, you have to understand the environment that astronauts are in, and also for aviation medicine that pilots and aircrew are in, and to apply the medicine physiology and the physics as well. So I do use a little bit of
Yeah.
knowledge,
Yeah.
but definitely it's worn off though since I did astrophysics
Yeah.
for sure. And then, like you say, the transferable skills, like I feel like when you're a kid, you're a natural scientist, and then it's kind of ironed out of you a little bit. And physics really builds those skills up again, and I definitely wouldn't want to lose them. And that's why I've kept research as such a big part of my clinical career as well, because it would be such a shame to have those skills and not use them. So yeah, both.
Yeah. Because I think, I mean, you mentioned it yourself earlier on, perhaps how your confidence and your abilities grew during the degree, and there was some early sort of challenges in that. And if I can just sort of perhaps take you on a slightly more personal note, you've spoken a bit about a dyslexia diagnosis sort of during your degree, and then a subsequent autism diagnosis as well. So they're obviously part of you, and do you feel that has helped in a way, or has it always been a challenge, that there are things that make you see things in a unique way that have been an assistance rather than a disability?
Yeah, I do like to put a positive spin on the skills that you have from these traits. But I don't want to minimize anybody's experience when they struggle. Of course, I've struggled too. When I look back, some things were so obvious, like I mentioned meeting deadlines with essays. So if I was kind of hyperfixated or really interested in something, I would work so hard on it. I would be a perfectionist, not make a spelling mistake. Often we didn't actually, in 2008, we didn't use laptops. We would write by
Yeah.
hand.
Yes.
So like, I would start again if I made a mistake on that piece of paper. But then I would neglect the things I wasn't interested in. And that was a problem because you need to work hard in all of the modules to get a good grade.
Yeah.
And I think the dyslexia diagnosis definitely came about during medicine because you are examined in such a varied amount of ways. It could be clinical skills, communication skills, actual written exams. You can do histology and pattern recognition, and all of these things you can see your spikes of your strengths, but also see your weaknesses. And that's when it was picked up at medical school. And I'm glad because I got lots of study skills kind of like tutorials, I suppose, to help me improve in the areas that I was weak in. And I passed medical school, so it worked.
Yes.
Yeah. But there are strengths. The pattern recognition thing is a big thing, especially with medical imaging and with patient diagnosis. I feel like I remember these kind of pictures of patients that I've seen, and then that helps me recognize that illness in someone else in the future. And yeah, there are benefits for sure.
Yeah, well, I think also, obviously you've got multiple degrees now and PhDs and medical doctorates and everything. But I noticed within that you've also taken a pilot's license as well, which I don't know how you found time to fit that in. But was that a conscious decision to move towards some of the space related work, or was it just a hobby? Or
It was like a personal challenge, but also there was a kind of career motive behind it. And it wasn't because I wanted to be a pilot. It was because I wanted to understand the environment that my, hopefully at the time, future patients would be in, or future research subjects. And not just the actual flying, but the process of studying to get that license, of putting in all the work. These are people who have high performance jobs, and it's about keeping their health as optimal as possible and making their job as streamlined as possible so they can do what they need to do and not be, affected by really loud noise or G forces. Obviously they are, but if you can minimize that impact from a health point of view, they can do their job well. So it was
yes.
it was a way to get that kind of empathy for them.
I think, but it is about sort of challenging yourself that's pushed you into all these different avenues. And was that also part of your decision making to do a surgical residency rather than other medical avenues?
I mean, that definitely stemmed from this surgeon that inspired me during my PhD to do a medical degree. I actually went back for an elective with him many years later at the end of medical school. And when you apply, so you do your foundation training after medical school for 2 years in different specialties, and then you apply for the specialty that you want to do. And I could have chosen a specialty like anesthetics, which would lead directly into aerospace medicine, higher training. But I chose surgery because that was my passion and that's what I'd done so much work towards it. I enjoy it. I just love scrubbing in and training with the consultant and learning new skills and knowing that there's a problem right there and you're fixing it. Yeah. It's very rewarding. So I chose surgery, even though it's so different from space medicine, and I'm just trying to do both.
And does that mean you have to come to terms a little bit with leaving the space behind as you transition into residency, or is it something you think you'll be able to keep going with?
I think I'd be able to keep with the research for sure. And there are qualifications you can do still as a surgeon to be, for example, an aviation medicine examiner. But this particular residency that I'm doing, you can't do the aerospace medicine residency in the UK after that. So it was a big choice. It was like a crossroads in my life. But then I got to do this for 18 months and take time out of surgery. So I feel like I'm still doing both at the minute, but we'll see what happens in the future.
Yeah, well, it's a major thing that you've done. So it's the and during the time, because I was on a sort of advisory panel during your PhD, so I sort of followed you out of your undergraduate and into your postgraduate, and I noticed that you started to take on more of these sort of public engagement type things, speaking about your work in public and to lay people and specialists as well. I mean, is that something that you enjoy? Was that a conscious choice to get involved in outreach?
Yeah, like I enjoy STEM outreach and learning about other people's work. And it is a big skill to be able to translate, hardcore science into general public entertaining articles or a talk. And it was a challenge for me because my public speaking, people know, was not very good back then. And I feel like it really improved my confidence and my comfort with sharing science with general general public essentially, and that translated better into my confidence for going to scientific conferences, and it even translated better for just communicating with patients and being able to gauge what level I need to communicate, for example, a diagnosis or a treatment plan with them. So it all kind of, yeah, it started in my PhD, but it had this knock-on effect of benefit throughout my career. um, and a little bit of social media and STEM outreach. I think it's just good to inspire people like this event.
Yeah,
If one person is like, "Oh, space medicine, never heard of that," and they go
yeah.
Google it, then I'm happy.
I, I mean, thinking, moving then forwards to this your Antarctic adventure. How did you end up with the position? Did you see an advert and apply, or what was the process?
So during medical school, it would have been about 5, 6 years ago now, we had an online lecture during COVID from the doctor who was there at Concordia Station telling us about his experiments that year. And I just thought, I'm learning about astronaut health right now. I'd taken a year out to do a master's in aerospace physiology. And I thought, COVID's happening, I'm isolated, confined, all of these things are like saying, you're learning about these conditions and you're living through some of them right now. Could you be the type of person who could go there?
Yeah,
So I kind of set out on a path to tick the boxes on the job description, a little bit of search and rescue, a little bit clinical medicine research, obviously space background, living abroad. Unfortunately, I don't speak French or Italian. That was a
uh,
big
right.
cross for me on the application form, but it didn't matter in the end. And yeah, it just all came together. And when I was ready, after getting my residency spot, I thought, okay, I'm going to ask for time out, apply for this job, and I got it.
Excellent. And I presume, from their point of view, putting together, I think it's 13 people, was it, at the station, and you expect them to live in close quarters with each other for such a long period. I mean, for me, socially, that would be a challenge. So, do they do any kind of matching of personalities, or, some profiling to get the team right?
Profiling, yes. So the station's run by two polar institutes, the French side and the Italian side, and half the crew. So some scientists and technicians from one and from the other. And they do recruit in slightly different ways. People have different motivations for coming. It might be adventure. For me, it was like the analog space mission. Some people go for money. That's fair enough. It's danger pay.
Yeah.
So like you do have different characters who apply for these jobs. They don't match at that stage, but you go through a lot of psychological tests and interviews to see if you're essentially resilient enough to cope with the isolation and the confinement. And then after that, we train for a month before the mission starts. So it is
Right.
quite last minute, I guess, in terms
Yeah.
of, if you think about military or space agency training. But yeah, and then they look at team dynamics. So for us, it was a sailing day, and then
All
they
right.
pick a kind of crew on that day, and we had our glaciologist called Simona, who was an excellent team leader for the whole year. And yeah, it is difficult. The people in the social component is probably one of the hardest things because the winter is very difficult psychologically and physiologically. You're so tired, you're kind of grumpy, you've got to give a lot of grace to people. All your bad habits are on show. If somebody leaves a dirty cup, it's the end of the world, like wash your dishes. So yeah, those like little things become a big deal. And then the extremes, like the cold and the hypoxia, they become normalized. So it's this really strange social interaction, but we got through it. There were no big fights or anything, so it's good.
And and so obviously, you're what about physically? You said a training, so you had a month of, was that physical training as well as, I suppose, equipment training and things?
It was more like fire safety,
Right.
how to do waste management, how to run the ice runway in the airport. Like these are all skills that I didn't have, and
Yeah,
many
yeah.
on the team didn't have. So it was all the different aspects of being a crew member that we had to train for. Yeah.
And there weren't any sort of special medical requirements, like you haven't got an appendix, so they didn't require things like that.
So you do have a very strict medical, actually. And I was
Right.
surprised I passed mine because I am not a sporty person. I don't go
Yeah.
to the gym. And I
Yeah.
thought, oh gosh, I'm like 34. Am I going to pass this medical? I don't know. But I did. And yes, they do scans for kidney stones. They check X-ray of your lungs, your blood, your urine, everything. Teeth are a big thing. At
Yeah.
Antarctic bases, you're right. The kind of things that healthy people get are going to be like dental problems, appendix, kidney stones because the air is very dry, so you're dehydrated and you can form those. But I still have my appendix, so that was a risk.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you the only sort of surgically trained person there? You know, if someone needed emergency help, is it just down to you?
Luckily, at our base, two clinicians on the crew. So there's quite a senior military doctor on the French side, and he did the kind of GP work, I would say, everyday stuff, altitude stuff, and if somebody got ill, he essentially ran the hospital in the base. And then my job clinically was as search and rescue doctor. Thankfully, didn't need to use those skills, but we did
Right.
a lot of training and drills. But yes, he was emergency medicine. So essentially, I think if there needed to be appendix out, I would definitely scrub in. Yeah.
Okay. Um, and so, but you've been there to do experiments, as I understand it. So, what were those experiments? What was the purpose behind them?
Sure. So, ESA are interested in this base because it's what we call an ice environment. So, isolated for 9 months of the year, confined most of the day. Some scientists do go out every day to check their instruments, but essentially you're inside the base most of the time. And the extreme environment of hypoxia. So, we're at altitude of 3,200 meters. The air's very dry, and you have the polar night or constant sun, so circadian rhythm disturbances. And then the stress of all this can lower your immunity as well. So my experiments were looking at everything from changes in the microbiome. So we eat essentially from the same pool of food for the whole year. So your gut health cannot do so well. We had exercise tolerance, glucose tolerance, cognition and learning experiments. So we had a really fun one where you had to do like a space flight docking simulator, and I was measuring oxygenation in the cortex of the brain to see if people could retain the skills they learned at the beginning of the mission compared to the end. Very relevant for, say, a Mars mission. If an astronaut learns a skill at the beginning of their training and they need to use it when they land on Mars, can they still remember what to do? So yeah, it was very varied and not always my expertise. So I learned a lot as well.
And you said you got an emergency role as well. So it sounds like everybody has to take on a number of roles. You mentioned to me when we were talking previously about you all as a crew have to prepare the runway, and you know there's a so what's the other sort of jobs apart from the sort of day-to-day things that you got involved in?
Yes, so they split the crew for emergencies into three teams. So there was my team, the rescue team, the medical team. So doctor led that, but the rest of the team were not clinically trained. So you literally had like the plumber who would be your anaesthetist, for example. Like it's quite scary, but that's how it has to be. And then also the fire team. So we split into those three teams if there was an emergency. And then we all had kind of crew-based roles like waste management, cleaning every Saturday, which became quite fun actually. I just put my music on and clean. So yeah, you'd be like cleaning the toilet 1 minute, then going outside to do a rescue drill the next minute, and then yeah, it was a very varied job actually. I never got bored.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, that's good when you're so isolated. But and there's obviously a lot of changes happening for you now because you know you've landed in New Zealand as I understand it, yeah. And suddenly there's loads more people and you know different environment to be in. Um, what are you most looking forward to, and what do you think you'll miss the most?
Well, I definitely missed the crew the most, for sure. And then also the amazing views, especially in the polar night. You could see your shadow on the floor from the Milky Way. And we had a couple of really great photographers on the crew who took stunning images of the aurora. So those are kind of memories that I'll remember forever, the special parts. I will not miss things like not having any fresh food, for
Yeah.
example. The very dry air is uncomfortable. I am covered in dry skin, rashes. I would get nosebleeds every day. It was grueling. You'd think these things wouldn't bother you so much, but when it's every day, it's very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
The altitude. So if I was speaking in Concordia right now, maybe on the video you noticed when I'm walking up the stairs, I'm like, like it's really hard work. It's about 2/3 of the oxygen pressure that we have at sea level. So I won't miss that either. And I feel like a superhuman right now with all the oxygen that I have in New Zealand.
Excellent.
I only got back
Yeah.
yesterday and yeah, I'm feeling good. Um, so yeah, there are things, but I guess you look back with rose-tinted glasses and you're like, I did that. Like that was a challenge,
Yeah.
but I'm okay now, so it's all
Yeah.
good.
And did you, while you were there, did you see some effects of climate change? Was it sort of much more obvious there than perhaps it is to us living in comfortable environments?
Yeah, so the Antarctic Treaty says Antarctica is for exploring and science. So I felt justified going, but when you're there, you do have a big responsibility to keep your fuel use down. So just simple things like turning off the lights, not leaving your computer running overnight. Waste management is huge, so sorting out all of your rubbish. And I notice I'm still doing it in the hotel room, like pulling all of the paper and the food apart and things. So you have like a personal responsibility, and then also we had the grey water recycling unit. So it was my job to test that drinking water. We'd essentially melt some from the glacier. We could drink that straight away, and then any runoff water in the sinks or the showers, you would recycle to use for laundry. And some of it was drinking standard, so I would test for like ammonia, phosphate, bacterial cultures, and if it was safe to drink, that's great. So there are, things that we do to try and minimize our impact. Um, we had a lot of scientists over the summer that did, it's called Beyond Epica, but they basically drilled the oldest ice core so they can see how the atmosphere has changed over, it's something like 1.3 million billion, I don't even know, years. And that was really inspiring because it was like, okay, we're figuring out what's happened and why, and, what solutions we can give. But yes, the station I've been told is sinking on the glacier. So yeah, I think things are melting. I didn't feel it, but that was quite worrying to hear. So it's yeah, the impact of humans in Antarctica. Don't book an Antarctic cruise, okay? I don't think it's
Yeah.
a good thing to do.
Yeah. Well, I think I mean I'm sort of coming to the ends of my questions, but I thought just one final opportunity, perhaps people who are listening to you now and inspired by the journey you've had and the all the skills you've amassed along the way. What would you give any particular advice to people who want to get into working for the European Space Agency or medicine or physics, or all the combinations that you've brought together in your career? What advice might you give to people, and how could they go about getting involved?
Okay, so ESA actually just dropped their application cycle for internships for masters. I think it's final year of BSc or master's students, and honestly, it's everything you can think of. Astrophysics for sure, space medicine for sure. I've seen that one. So I'd recommend applying, and please feel free to email me if you want some advice. Would be happy to help. And then ESA also have a really great education department. They have a lot of free courses for students. When I was a medical student, I attended the space physiology course, and that was, I think, 2017, 2018, and it kicked off really, oh, this is a possibility for me. So I'd recommend that. And just in general, follow your interests. it's okay if it's slow and it takes time. It took time for me. You're always improving, even if it's at a slow rate. And if there isn't an opportunity, make one, you know? Like I did dissertations in space medicine. We don't do space medicine at my London medical school, but I made it happen by reaching out to a doctor at NASA. So you can make things happen. You just have to be keen, be polite, and people will usually email back. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic, Nina. Thank you so much for your time. I think there are some questions that will come into the chat, and David's going to handle those. And so I'm going to pop off now. But thank you so much for talking to us, and well done on all your achievements. Really impressive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Howard. That was really some really good questions for Nina there, and it's been really nice for us to, I guess, reunite the two of you in a way for this. Nice. We have got some questions coming through, and I want to just go straight into them. So we've got a question here from, I guess, Martin, and a few people have seem to have given the thumbs up just to ask a bit more about your specific research projects. I know you mentioned it was looking into the body and mind and how they adapt to extreme environments. Is there something that you some specific aspect of your research that uncovered something interesting, or?
So I haven't analysed all of the results yet, and the samples do get sent back to the labs in Germany, and we do a after mission data collection in May. So we'll see kind of the baseline before mission, the changes, and then if we go back to normal. But I did mention the learning and cognition, but we honestly had such a range. There was a study about mindfulness intervention, which honestly brought the crew together so well. The crew really looked forward to it. It was fun. It was beneficial in terms of mental health and performance of jobs. And it's such a low payload cost when you think about it to do an intervention like mental health, like breathing, yoga. We even did Lego building. Some of the science, is surprising in Concordia. And then we had more kind of on the physiology side. I looked at glucose tolerance, so doing an oral glucose challenge with a big pint of sugar water, and then testing the blood for 2 hours to see what insulin and glucose levels looked like. I collected stool samples to look at bacteria in the gut. That's very glamorous. We also tested antimicrobial effects on different materials for future space stations. So that was a bit like material science for me. So they really do I had 8 different projects, and you've got to handle all of them, even if you're not an expert in those fields, on behalf of principal investigators back in Europe. So those projects are different every year and selected by ESA. So that's how it works.
Great. We've had a few questions. I want to jump to. I will go back to something that I've just skipped over briefly. But Amy has said, Nina, hi, I'm doing A levels currently, physics, maths, biology, and really want to work for the European Space Agency one day. I'm not sure on whether to do a physics course or a natural sciences course, as I really enjoy biology too. So do you have any advice on this?
I mean, those courses are all hard. So I would say follow your interests most, because then you'll be more successful for sure. It sounds like you've got a real mix of interests, and natural sciences might be a good course to be able to pick different modules. I'm not telling you what to do though, because you've got to pick what to do. But yeah, I would just check out the websites, visit the universities, talk to the people in the department. The current students will give you the lowdown. I feel like Hull is a really friendly place to go. I was very supported there. So yeah, you should check it out and see. I don't know if they do natural sciences, but astrophysics is good.
There's a related question from Paulina as well. Dr. Purvis, what do you consider the key aspect during the recruitment process that helped you get the position?
Okay, interesting. There are a couple of things that come to mind. One of the big kind of themes in the interviews that we had, so there were several stages of interviews before medical and psychological testing, was how are you going to keep the crew motivated through the year when they're busy or when they're struggling with the polar night, when you're friends, you're a doctor, you're a researcher, you're a crew member, like those relationships are complicated. How are you going to keep them coming to the lab to collect data? And I feel like I showed a lot of enthusiasm for space medicine in general, and kind of my outreach in STEM outreach kind of helped with that, like inspiring people to take part. So that was definitely one thing. And then the other thing, which was kind of a disaster at the time, is when I flew to France to have the interview, I lost my luggage. So I lost all my notes, my suit that I'd picked out, and I had to turn up to the interview in the clothes I'd traveled in. Um, and they were like, "Oh wow, that's quite stressful, and you still did well. So if you can handle that, maybe you can handle going to Antarctica." So that was quite funny.
Peter has said, one of the potential major issues with deep space travel, such as a Mars mission, will be the communication lag. Some analogs build this communication lag in. What do you think about the effects of communication lags, and should bases such as Concordia introduce one?
Yeah, if there was a study on communication at Concordia, that would be so interesting to do. And especially if it was kind of sorting out an emergency where you needed to use skills that you didn't really have. So, for example, like telesurgery. So, camera and microphone in the theatre for a operation that the doctor didn't know how to do. Would you be able to do that with a lag? Because you can't train for every possible surgery. And we didn't have a lag in our communication. We had Starlink. It was pretty good for the whole year. But we didn't have a mission control. So there was like a process for each person's job where they would check in with their kind of manager back at the Polar Institute. I would check in with my PIs back at ESA, but there wasn't a kind of constant monitoring like they have for the ISS, for example. So there was an aspect of, okay, we are alone here doing our work, but you could of course send an email or a WhatsApp message whenever you needed help. Thankfully, there were no major emergencies for us, but some things did go wrong. The technicians had to fix a bunch of stuff, especially in the polar night when it was cold. And they really had to improvise, they even built a shelter around one of the tanks that froze so that they could fix the heater. It was one of the black water tanks. So obviously we couldn't take showers for a little while. That was not pleasant. Yeah, so the communication lag would be a huge problem for sure, especially for skills that you haven't trained in.
I think there's a really good question here from Melissa. Hi, Nina. I really admire how you balance your work in the NHS with space medicine. What are some of your goals and the next steps in your career journey?
Okay. I mean, I'm going back to the NHS in the new year. So I guess being out of clinical practice for essentially 18 months it's a big break. So I want to be kind to myself and take it easy at the beginning. The NHS are usually very supportive with your back to work kind of training. But I just want to become safe and competent in my specialty in the NHS. That's my main goal in terms of general surgery. And then I do want to continue the space medicine research. I will get to go back to ESA in May and do these experiments again. And I'm hoping that I can maybe kind of pick a space medicine specialty, so to speak. I'm very interested in the microbiome. So gut health for me is something that we want to concentrate more on, and one of my PIs has been very supportive with that. So yeah, we'll see.
David from the Milne Centre for Astrophysics sends his greetings from the centre there, celebrating astrophysics is still going strong. Thank you for that message, David. There's two sort of like related questions. One from Ratika saying, I'll be starting my GP training next year. What courses or extra portfolio building can I do before I apply for aerospace medicine? And that links, I think, to Alexandra's question, just saying what kind of work you did, especially in the US, to build your portfolio.
Sure. Okay. So I'll start with the UK. There are some, and Europe, there are some courses that you can do, especially if you're going to come to the end of your GP training. So you can do a diploma in aviation medicine, which also covers a bit of space, and that gives you licensing to be an aviation medicine examiner. So that's like a big tick on an application form for aerospace medicine residency. Also research, so King's College London, where I did my master's, do an aerospace medicine master's now. Would recommend that. They've got like a spacesuit lab and everything. It's really cool. ESA have a space physician training course, which runs every couple of years. I attended in 2023, which is very useful to get insight into operational space medicine, which is quite rare in Europe because we don't actually fly astronauts from Europe. It's usually all done at NASA. And then, yeah, leading on to the US stuff. So in two parts, after my PhD, I worked as a medical physicist in the US as a postdoctoral researcher. So that kind of built my portfolio in terms of trying to take my research into a larger patient cohort, and also experiencing working in a different kind of healthcare system, which is definitely useful and brings perspective when working in the NHS. Very grateful for it. And then the University of Texas Medical Branch trained flight surgeons for NASA. And I got to spend a month with them and do their Principles of Aviation Medicine and Space Medicine course. So those are things that are open to UK citizens as well. So would recommend that.
Brilliant. Daniel, I've been saving Daniel's question just because it's one that I'm interested in as well. Very interesting talk describing the station. Did you have any experience working in extreme environments or isolated fieldwork before this?
So I didn't have any cold weather experience, believe it or not. ESA just had a bit of confidence in me there and sent me out. But I had done some search and rescue in the Middle East at motorsports events, which, believe it or not, has a lot of crossover with space medicine because it's kind of high impact crashes, high performance drivers, and that gave me a bit of insight into the kind of extreme medicine side of things, even though it was hot weather, and kind of search and rescue principles. So those are the skills that I took from kind of that elective. But yes, I'm not like an alpinist. We had a few of those on the crew. So yeah, the cold was new to me. It was hard work.
One of the questions that came at the beginning that I've been saving as you get to the end, I think we've covered a bit of it. Ruth has asked about, she said, please could you remind me what degrees you studied at Hull? I think that there are so many degrees that you've studied, it's hard to keep track of them. But she also says, and this I think is a really important question, what would you say to inspire and motivate students in schools and colleges who are interested in studying those programs that you studied?
Sure. Okay, so the programs I studied at Hull were the Masters of Physics with Astrophysics, and it was the integrated Masters with the Bachelors. So you're an undergraduate for 4 years, but you do enough credits to get your Masters by the end and your dissertation. And then at Hull York Medical School, but based in Hull, I did a medical physics PhD. So that was looking at surgeries for cancers and imaging for cancers, basically. What would I say to inspire people? I mean, it's one of those things like, especially as a woman in STEM, people kind of say, oh, really? Astrophysics, you're going to do that? Like, all of my friends were doing things like physiotherapy, nursing, etc. And I think just don't listen to the stereotypes, listen to kind of what you're interested in, what your passion is, because if you're not passionate, you're not going to work hard enough to be successful in it, probably. So that's the advice I would give.
Brilliant. We started about an hour ago with a last minute sort of flight out of Antarctica from a melting runway to New Zealand. So we started with drama, and I sort of want to just finish with, I'm not going to cry, but your dad says, hi all, how brilliant and down to earth is my daughter. Me and her mum can't wait to see her in a fortnight's time, Dad. So
I love you. Yeah, they're coming to visit New Zealand. I'm pretty sure they just want to see New Zealand though. They've always wanted to come, but yeah, we're gonna have a really nice trip and a reunion and eat all of the good food.
I think you've given such an amazing talk today, Nina. It's been really, really brilliant. It's been such a rich hour, and I'm really, really great. Well, we're all really, really grateful that you've shared your time with us, answered so many questions, provided that video that has allowed us to see something that we'd never ever otherwise had the chance to see, which is inside that research station. You've, I guess, you're really jet lagged now, and you're back in civilization.
It's 2 a.m. It's 2 a.m.
Well, I guess
this is dedication to
be great. Yeah, another reason for us to be very grateful. What's your first priority once you wake up tomorrow?
You know, I'm gonna look for a hairdresser, and my parents will agree with this. I need a haircut in a good condition. And then I'm gonna, once I've had my hair done, I take myself out for a nice meal tomorrow night. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
Sounds brilliant. Well, you know what? Thank you so much. We're really, really grateful for this. It's been fantastic. Thank you also to Howard for your time and for the great questions you put to Nina. Thank you everyone for coming and joining us today. If you have any feedback, if you want to get in touch with us and let us know any ideas you'd like to see for future sessions, any words of thanks you'd like us to pass on to Nina, or any ideas on this is the first time we've done a 12 o'clock session. Has that worked for you? Do you think it's something you'd like to see again? Drop us an email at alumni@hull.ac.uk. But I'm sure you all want to join me in thanking Nina for an absolutely brilliant session. Nina, thank you, and I hope you enjoy your first day in New Zealand tomorrow and that nice meal out.
Honestly, thank you for attending, everyone.